What's up, guys? Big D here from Wilson Audio Extras. Going to give you a lesson today. Leiges Audio TG1600.1. Just did a video on this recently. I'll link in the video description below. But those who went to the link also found a different amp, the TG1600.1. And hey, if you're going to do a 500.1 that does 500 watts, then why wouldn't you just get the 1600.1? These are literally the same price. Well, I'm going to show you why you don't want this one. And if you want either one, again, $60 amps, 65, whatever they are now, not excellent by any means, but for a starter budget bass head amp, this one. But let's take a closer look at this one. I'll show you why you don't want it. And then we'll amp dyno test it, and I'll really prove to you why you don't want it. All right, let's move the 500.1 for right now. Let's open up the 1600. Now, first off, you'll notice this is Class AB, which for the SQ people, that's good. But for a cheap monoblock amplifier, it is not. Okay, so let's look. Everything here is listed as max power. 4 ohms and 2 ohms. It says either 800 or 1600. So, I don't even know what they've got going on here. Signal to noise is kind of high, 94. Minimum impedance is 2 ohms. 1 30 amp fuse. It does come with bass controller and variable bass boost. Let's see what else is in here. Of course, you've got the mounting screws and an extra fuse. Got the telephone cable to call Grandma. I bet a lot of you people have never even seen a phone cord. You haven't been around that long. So here's the, again, world's worst bass knob. But at least it comes with one. I mean, still for 60 bucks. All right, let's see what the amp is about. Wasn't truly taped up, so somebody's probably already returned this one. And they put it back as new, which is a big no-no. Alright, so footprint-wise, this amp is a little bit bigger than the other one. I'll show you a size comparison here in a little bit. Power Protect, RCA inputs, gain control, full or low pass, the low pass frequency, bass boost from 0 to 12 dB. There's the remote, or that's where you plug in to talk to your grandma. Same logo. This one says 1600 watts here. Opposite side, I do like these terminals better than the other one. Looks like probably 4 gauge, ground, 12 volt, 8 gauge remote. 30, there's a 25. That's a 25 amp fuse. 30s are green. And it looks like you might be able to squeeze 8 gauge in for the speaker outs. Again, this is a mono block. It has 2 different outputs here, but that's for dual voice coil or multiple subs. You're not going to get more power if you only use 2, if you use 4 versus only using 2 of these. We'll open it up a little bit too, but let me get the other one out first and we'll compare the size. All right, on the right, 1600 watts. On the left, 500 watts. Huh. Class D, Class AB. True 500 watts. No way a 1600 watts. I'm going to guess less than 200 watts at 2 ohms. Probably 150. I think this is the same as the Boss AR1100 that we tested a while back that I threw the wire inside and had it spark. I think it's the same amp as that. We'll find out when we open it up, but yeah. Enough of the blabber. Let's hook this up to the dyno and find out how much power we get. Of course, this is a mono amp, so it doesn't matter which way you hook up the RCAs. For the amp dyno testing, I'm going to leave it in full range mode. That way we don't have to worry about the low pass filter causing any problems. Bass boost will be turned all the way down. I have the gain set about half. I will check it with a DD1 Plus on the dyno to get our approximately 9 dB of overlap. So let's hook up the power and the speakers now. All right, we'll hook up the speakers. Notice the two negative terminals are on the left, two positives on the right. Again, we're only going to hook up one of each. 12 gauge wire will be sufficient. If this was a true 1600 watt amp, we might want a little bigger, but for this case, we'll be fine. So 4 gauge does fit. It's mighty tight, but put the power in here. Tighten the ground. Got plenty of meat in there. We'll hook up the remote and we'll fire it up. Hopefully not fire it, just power it up. I have no idea why they use like 8 gauge for the remote on a lot of amps, because you never need a remote that large. Alright, we'll plug in the amp. We'll plug in our jumper wire. Now let's hook up the remote. We have blue light, which is good. Alright, let's fire up the dyno and try it out. Alright, Leiges audio, let's try 4 ohms. It's rated 800 watts max. Certified test first and 1% THD. Here we go, 40 hertz. Yo! 102 watts. Abysmal. Let's try the Leiges, 2 ohms, 40 hertz, certified test first to 1% THD, 1600 watts max is what we're rated. 163 watts at 14.29. I told you. All right, guys, there you have it. Proof. Like I told you. I done told you before. If you're going to buy one of these off Amazon, they're exactly the same price. Buy the TG500.1. Do not buy this one. This one is literally less than half of the power of this one. So I never showed you the guts of this one. Let me take the bottom panel off so I can show you the guts real quick. All right, let's take the bottom panel off of the AB amp. That's the opposite of beef. And just as a reminder, we'll take off the bottom of this amp. These amps use different architecture. This one's class AB. The smaller one is class D. I won't go into the differences today, but mainly most of the newer amps that have come out over the past, I don't know, probably 10, maybe 15 years have been class D for subwoofer amps. Class AB, you can either go really cheap or you can go really expensive. In this case, really cheap. This, if you know nothing about amplifiers, just looking, transformer, see how much bigger the transformer is here. You've got some additional, of course, Class D needs additional filter caps that AB does not, but yeah, really, I mean, AB is very inefficient, so it needs a larger heat sink. But yeah, you want this amp, not this one. Let me flip them over just so you can get the model numbers in your head. If you buy these off Amazon, do not get the 1600.1AB. Get 500.1. Public service announcement of the day, or of the week, or of the month. You're welcome. Till next time, Big D. I'm going to go find some more amps to test or do something else fun. I see ya. I'm out. All right, so 25 amp fuse out. 40 amp fuse in. Again, not recommended. Don't do what I do. Big dummy productions here. Should not do this, but we're doing it for what the heck. So if you notice the camera's in slightly a different position than before, it's because I just replaced the fuse and moved it around. Now it says it's not stable at 1 ohm. I just charged up my battery bank. This is not the lithium bank, obviously. This is the other 12 volt battery bank. So let's try the 1 ohm test and see if it'll do it, or if it goes up in smoke. I don't know. We'll see. Here we go. All right, we got 226 at 14.46, and we would have absolutely blown that other fuse probably. Let's try the other test. Let's try the uncertified. $233, 14.27, and then the Mac Daddy test. Burst test, 1 ohm, 40 hertz. $253, 14.13. All right, while we're burst testing, let's go ahead and try 0.8, 40 hertz. Ah, protection light. Let's show you that. Protection light came on immediately, and that's actually good for a cheap amp. This is like, oh, it's actually good for any amp, but this is like the Boss Riot that we tested. People say, oh, I want to see it go up in smoke. Well, a lot of these amps are actually built so that they can't go up in smoke. This is probably one of them. Now, what we need to do is we need to power cycle it and see if it'll come back on, because that's the true test of an amp. Because if it goes into protect, that's okay, but if it comes out, that's good. If it doesn't, not so good. All right, protection's on. Let's power cycle the amp. Power off. Power it back on. We have blue light. I think we're good to go. We just can't run it at under 0.8. Now, the question is, can we run it at under 0.8 like certified? Let's try 0.8 certified. Because sometimes an amp will get that inrush current and shut off or go into protect, but it still can run the certified test. Might as well find out, because we know that this amp is bloated in its ratings like crazy. Let's try it certified at 0.8. All right, so it stopped at 221. The protection light did not come on. But anyway, it's a cheap amp, and it's definitely, if you're gonna get one of these, get the 500.1 Class D amp. Don't get the AB version of this. Absolute junk.